Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Winning with Jed. I have with me, I'm excited, all the way from Australia, Chad Taylor, psychotherapist. I don't know how they do things down under, but Chad's gonna let us know. So Chad, how are you?
Yes, I'm just waking up. I'm coming in from the future.
It's great to see the future. How is it?
It's amazing.
That's good. That's
Amazing.
good.
Yeah. The sun
Uh,
hasn't quite come up here yet, but
Chad and I were talking just before we got live on here, and it was is the difference in time zone is so big. He's barely waking up, and it's my afternoon here. And what time of the year is it over there? We've got summer starting over here, or spring starting, and you're just getting out of what, fall?
yeah, autumn we call it. Autumn, we're just in the middle of autumn.
Autumn. That's great. That's great. And if I'm not mistaken, you live right by the beach, so
We
probably
sure
not a lot of
do.
leaves falling.
Not yet. We've got a nice garden. We've got a nice
Uh,
bushy garden here.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to get into the conversation for all of our viewers. Can you explain a little bit of who you are for everyone? They obviously know you're a psychotherapist, but tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you're at.
All right. So I'm at the moment, or now, I am a clinical psychotherapist. How did I get here? How long have we got?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Make it interesting.
How did I get here? Through lots of ups and downs and crazy wins and then some losses and changing of careers and criminal charges, all sorts of things ended me up here, right? Like it's been a journey. When I think about my life, it feels like I've had multiple lives along the way. Like it hasn't just been one continuous life.
It's interesting because there's this whole journey that a lot of us go on, and we don't really know where we're going to end up at some point. And usually that starts with a low, right? We think everything's good as we grow up. We're super optimistic with the future and all those things, and then we hit a low. Why don't you tell us about your low and then how you built out of that?
Mm. Which one?
Your multiple lows. Let's go with the low of the
I
low.
think I think it's been like this all my life. So there's probably the couple of major lows was 22 ending up in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center after a detox facility, and probably not something that we aspire to during high school that we're gonna end up there by the time we're 22. But that had come on the back of lots of messy, messy times, and I had 32 jobs in the last 2 years of my drinking, and that was
32.
32. Yeah, yeah,
And did
32.
all of those,
I only know.
did you just like not show up and that's how you end up with 32? Or did you just like, I'm good, and then they fire you? Like what was that? 32 jobs?
Yeah, I think there was probably a range of everything. There was a lot where I got asked not to come back. There was a lot where I just didn't show up, on a Monday or a Friday a couple of times consecutively pretty early on into the actual working for the company. I
This
was
is
a
kind of
plumber.
interesting. It's kind of interesting though too because you're at the low of your life. You're struggling with drugs and alcohol at this point, and 32 jobs. You're thinking, did you not think about that like at the time? It was just kind of normal. Like you were so preoccupied with other things. Like what was going through your head, or was anything going through your head at that point?
I think the drive when you're trapped in it, and this is the whole belief system of alcoholism and addiction being a disease, that there's almost this power greater than you, which is in the drugs or the alcohol, that the same thinking, the minute I consumed any drugs and alcohol, which was pretty regularly, the same thinking went out. It didn't start as on Thursday night on payday that I was gonna have a bender and not show up to work on Friday. It started out as I'll have a couple of drinks after work. Probably the most one I remember is I was working as a plumber, as an apprentice, because I'm pretty young at this stage. I'm probably 19, 20. Me and a few mates are living in a caravan. We've moved to the Gold Coast in Australia, which is, it's almost like, I don't know, it's our version of Vegas. And I can remember this one afternoon we started drinking, and I bought a bottle of bourbon. We lived in this shitty little caravan with a separate toilet and shower. I remember started drinking this bourbon, this bottle of bourbon, and then passed out. And then I woke up and I thought the sun was coming up. So I got out of bed and I'm thinking, fuck, I'm so pissed. I don't know how I'm going to be able to drive to work today. I feel like right out of it. And then I went, walked out, got in the shower, had a shower thinking there's no way I'm going to be able to drive to work. And then when I come out, it was darker than what it was when I went in. The sun was actually going down. I'd only been passed out for an hour or hour and a half or whatever. And I was so disorientated I thought it was morning. I thought I'd slept right through. And I'd polished off this bottle of bourbon in 45 minutes or an hour, like a whole 750 ml bottle, whatever I don't know what you guys call them in
Yeah,
quarts
that's right.
or, yeah,
Yeah.
you guys in the imperial system. But yeah, and it was, yeah. So what did I do? Instead of going back to bed, I started partying again and then didn't end up showing up to work the next day anyway because it was just that was sort of like, yeah. So you asked how it ended up. That was just a Thursday afternoon of having a couple of drinks on payday with some mates sitting around the caravan. So I burned through friends, relationships, family members, just fucking burnt my life to the ground.
That, I mean, to me, that sounds like the low of the lows, right? Like nobody trusts you. Frankly, a lot of people in that situation, you can chime in, don't really care that people don't. And they're just like, they're worried about their next fix, whatever they can do to kind of get that next thing going. So you had this drug addiction problem, you had all the drinking, all these different things. Obviously, you're in a completely different place now. What got you to go into rehab?
Yeah, so it was one big event for me. It was one I had no inkling of as much as everybody wanted me to moderate and stop my drinking. This is the problem with alcohol and drug addiction. You're so consumed by it that you actually cannot see what is going on. Like it is really an illness of denial. I got to a point one night. It was just an Easter Sunday, 2001. At the time, I was living back with them, which is just half an hour south north of where I am now, in a really small little town. The only real thing was, a bowling club and a corner shop type thing. And I went to
Hmm.
the bowling club just to start drinking. And then all of a sudden that turned into a bender. And I went home and me and my father ended up in a punch up again. And we're rolling around out the front yard having a sort of bit of a scuffle instigated by me. All this anger and resentment and all these things that had happened to me in childhood as I'm drinking are just coming to my head, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not putting up with that. Like, that revenge type thinking that a lot, as all I can remember is my mum trying to break us up, and she's so unwell and so skinny, and we actually thought we were going to lose her at that time. And then the next day, she gave me an ultimatum: go and get some help, or you're going to have to move out. I can't have this going on anymore around me. And that was, it's your fault. It's this, it's that. All the projection and the blame, all, which is why I've written this book now, right? It was all, and I packed my bag. I told everyone to fuck off because it was everyone else's problem, right? Because that's how the egocentricity in us protects us. It makes it all about you, and then therefore I don't have to look at me.
If you're the problem, I'm not the problem, so let's just focus on you and then I don't have to deal with me, right?
Yeah, and we don't even know it though. This is the exact thing I've written about in my book, and we won't go too far into it. That the egocentricity, the ego, and we'll talk about this in a minute. But so I walked to the top of the driveway,
Hmm.
and left is down to a mate's house where I knew I had half a case of beer, so 12 or so beers left. And right is the highway, which takes us the East Coast Highway. You could go all the way to Melbourne or pretty much all the way to the top of Australia, Cape York,
Hmm.
you know, thousands of kilometers each way. And that's again where this alcoholic thinking goes. It goes, well, fuck you. I'm going to get as far as I can away from the problem, which is you. And
Hmm.
I'm going to hitch and I'm going to go to Cape York or I'm going to go to Tasmania almost, which is, there's water between Tasmania and the mainland, right?
And
And
then
then there was
I
just
mean,
some,
and when you were doing that, right? you go to that highway, and then, a lot of kangaroos are hopping by really quick. You just grab your saddle and then hop on the back of one of those kangaroos, right? So you didn't even have to, you didn't even need a car. You just used one of the kangaroos and they just take
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
wherever you
yeah.
want to
You
go,
just
right?
jump on one. They're already saddled up, ready to go. There's this part of collapse. We see it in arguments. We see it. It happens regularly with people. But the egocentricity that's inbuilt in us to keep us safe is so powerful.
Hmm.
And then there was this one tiny moment where it was like, fuck, maybe I'm the problem here. Maybe I do need help.
So
And it
it
collapsed.
was kind of like this beam of light
Yeah.
barely cracked through.
Yep.
Chad, maybe you're the problem. You thought this in your head.
Yeah. And that's when the look at the jobs, look at the, you have never had a serious girlfriend, you're overweight, you're unhealthy, you've crashed multiple cars. You just, like, I'll be honest, I was just fucking hopeless. Like, literally,
Hmm.
that's the only word you could use for that person. Fucking hopeless.
Yeah.
And I walked back, I'd cried there for a bit, and I walked back down the driveway. We lived on a property. Walked back down the driveway, and I said, I'll go and get help. But even then, it took 2 days to get into a facility, which was very quick. Now it can take weeks or months into a public facility. And even then, I was my mates calling my mates on the phone saying, "Oh, I can't remember if they were saying that I shouldn't go, or I was trying to get them to tell my mum that I shouldn't go. Like crazy behavior when I look back at it. It's just fear, full of fear. What's my life going to look? Even though my life was so shit from drinking and drugging,
Well, and
the idea of
I tell people all the time, it's one of those things where sometimes in these really horrible situations, we're actually uncomfortably comfortable. Our life is not comfortable. What's going on is not comfortable. But getting outside of our comfort zone, which is the uncomfortable that we're in, is scarier than actually staying in it, right? Do you think that
mm,
that's accurate or?
yeah, definitely until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. I think
Right.
we don't make any decisions. We
Hmm.
actually prefer the misery of the known than the fear of the unknown. Like that's actually a scientific, psychological fact.
So you break down, you have a couple of days, you somehow you still end up going there, and what really transpires? Were you really changed? Was it really the help you needed? Was it, did it turn on the light bulb over your head and you're like, wow, I didn't even see all this. What changed you there, or did it take something else?
No, it was there. So I get there, and it's a couple of days after Easter, so it's pretty quiet because in Australia it's the biggest time we get public holidays, or I don't know what you call them, but days
Yeah.
off work. There's 4 days in a row where nobody really works unless you're in hospitality. Or I get there and I'm the only one in this facility. There's no one there, and there's two workers, and I go in and full of fear. I go, I'm not fucking talking to anyone. I'm fucking don't just want you to leave me alone. And they're just like, hey, look, as long as you don't cause any problems, we don't care what you do. Like, in other words, we see this all the time. This is just the fear projecting itself onto us. We're just the nurses, right? We're just the workers. So I go in there, and this woman's offers to take me for a walk. So we go for a walk. She takes me for a walk, and we go for a walk. Unbeknownst to me, what she's actually doing, if we use the Alcoholics Anonymous or 12 step sort of philosophy, she's using step 12, which is, passing it on to other people, passing on the message of recovery to other people. So she takes me for this walk, and we have a talk, and she's talking to me and getting to know me. And by this stage, I'm probably 3 days off the alcohol, which was hard as it was because it was more bender for me. It wasn't daily. It was
Hmm.
when I started. There was no the you. I couldn't guarantee what my behavior was going to look like.
Hmm. You're just all
So
over
we
the
go for
place,
this.
but it
Yeah,
was like it was just sporadic. You're like
yeah,
you're not the one that's like constantly drinking every day, every second, but it's just like now it's time to party. Let's go.
yeah. And it was every week. Like my pattern was that Sunday or Monday when I stopped, I was remorseful. They say in 12-step fellowship, we end up restless, irritable, and discontent, full of fear, remorse, and regret.
Hmm.
So I'm in that stage every week. And then, so Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm fearful of what I've done or can't remember a lot of what I've done. And I'm never drinking again. And then Thursday comes and it's either drinking or it's hanging out for Friday.
Right. So
So
this
that
so
was
this
the pattern.
lady so this lady walks you down the street or you're walking together.
Yeah, in the bush, she takes me out in the bush and she starts telling me her story. I had no idea what she was doing. I'd never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd never known anyone to go into a facility for drug and alcohol addiction. Had no idea. And when you look at a 22-year-old, we're pretty much kids then, even though we're in America, you guys are only just 1 year into being
18,
legal
you're
to drink.
considered an adult, and then here you are 22, and you're still,
Yeah,
I mean, relatively we're still kids at that point.
we are. She tells me her story. And the thing I don't remember much of the story, but the thing I remember of the story was she said, so I come into this facility exactly where you are, and I was 38, and my life was not where I wanted it to be. And she said, and I said to myself, I don't want to not drink forever, but I'm going to give myself 2 years of not drinking, and I'm going to have a 40th. And for me, that was what I needed to hear, right? Because it was, yeah, I can stop for 6 months or I can stop for 12 months. But the idea of never being able to have a drink again was just, I would have rather, I said to openly, I would rather if I had some more guts, I'd kill myself than not drink. Like that's where the mindset was.
You needed it too much.
Well, yeah, I hated the way I felt sober. And that's what I say to people. You know, you're an alcoholic or an addict by the way you feel when you're sober, not by how
Mm-hmm.
much drugs and alcohol you consume, really. It's by how the way you feel when you're sober. Uneasy, couldn't really speak to people properly. So it served a purpose at the start. It
So
was
she
actually the
comes,
solution.
so she comes alongside you and she's like, "Hey, you were me at this
Yeah,
same point. Like I was in your shoes."
yeah,
And she gets you to this place where you don't have to commit to never drinking again. But what about a break? And you think to yourself, I can do that. That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing, right?
yeah, I can do that. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. And then she goes on to tell me that for those 2 years, she did Alcoholics Anonymous and she met a whole new bunch of people. And then it got closer to a 40th. And this was the key point for me. She said, you know what happened? And I said, what? She said, my life got that good being sober that I didn't want to risk the life I had and go back to the life I come from, so I didn't drink on my 40th. And I can still feel that go through my body when I say it in tingles. That to me was the message, right? That was what I needed. That person, didn't matter how many times my mum told me not to drink. I had a punch up with my father and other people, and people told me about what I'd done in my benders. It was hearing it from another person who'd been through the same thing right there at the right time, and that was it for me. It changed. That night, she got me to an AA meeting. Then my journey went on. Then I went to that was a detox facility. Then I went to a rehabilitation, which was 12-step focus. We did meetings every day. We did therapy, and then we can finish this podcast now because I ran off into the sunset, and my life becomes so good that I never had a problem again.
Now and you're like, and now you know what? I pay people to or people pay me to tell them how wonderful my life is. Okay. So now your life actually begins, though,
Yeah,
really, right? You kind of have to start over, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
now you're at ground zero. Okay, before I would say you're going into the negative. Like the
yeah,
police are coming to get you, you're losing your jobs, you can't keep your relationships, whether it's with your buddies or with a woman and you can't even keep the relationship with your family. You go through that, you get out, you see the light. And here's a question that I have while we're sitting here talking about this, because I think a lot of people have dealt with addiction, right? And in fact, we're talking about that because I think with Shut Up and Win, whatever the hurdle is that you have in your life, and people have different hurdles all the time, you're not alone. There's people who have gone through those hurdles, and it also doesn't mean just because you have a problem in your life, you have a hurdle in your life, it doesn't mean that you can't turn it around. In fact, I would say you could turn around almost every single situation. And so when you have somebody that's in that mindset that you're talking about, that addiction mindset, they're so dependent on it, they can't do anything. There's a TV show here, um, which goes over, it's called, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it goes over addiction intervention. It's called Intervention. I don't know if you've ever seen
mm,
it. But
Yeah, I've seen it.
essentially, it's inside how people are treating the parents are treating someone that's stuck with addiction and they're trying to help them. And so they give them a lot of grace, but it ends up keeping them in the addiction. What would you say to those people? Your parents, I mean, your dad's having it all out, having it out with you. You guys are throwing punches and he still doesn't kick you out. He obviously loves you. Your mom is dying of cancer. She can't handle anything. She obviously loves you. What would you tell someone that's struggling with addiction? What would you tell them that really made the difference, or what should they know? What would you tell the people that are struggling with somebody that has addiction in their life? Those
Well,
are
the
two
first thing I'd
questions.
tell them is it's not your fault. You're an addict or an alcoholic. It actually isn't your fault, but it's your responsibility to do something about it. I really look at it as an allergy, and science is now backing up what they said, almost 100 years ago in Middle America or in Alcoholics Anonymous, that there's a different digestive enzyme in 10 to 15% of the population.
Hmm,
And unfortunately, in a lot of the indigenous population, because they haven't had thousands of years of alcohol coming down the line, that they don't have the digestive enzymes to break down the alcohol and the drugs. So therefore, a lot of indigenous people, especially in Australia and I'm sure everywhere, they really fall into the addiction trap really quickly
hmm,
because we're not metabolizing it. So there's almost two things going on. And this isn't the quick answer you were looking for, but I'm going to go with it quickly. That it's there's two parts of it. There's the mental part of it that tells us we need the drink or the drug or that it's a good idea and it'll be different this time. But then once it's in our system, the body takes over. So the quick scientific way around this is most people will actually process one standard drink. I don't know what you call them over there, but one standard drink per hour. So in Australia, you can have two standard drinks in the first hour as a man, and then you can have one every hour spaced out, and you can still be under the limit to drive. But they're like light, one full light beer or a smaller heavy beer or a small glass of wine or whatever it might be, whatever one standard drink is, the alcohol content, our bodies as an adult should process that and get it out of us. Well, in an alcoholic or an addict, that liver doesn't work the same. So it's the digestive enzyme. So after the first drink, the liver hasn't metabolized the alcohol properly, and it almost starts sending signals to the brain telling you need more. And if
hmm,
you look at most people that have an allergy to something, they crave it. Most
hmm.
people that are lactose intolerant actually crave ice cream and things, and they know it's not good for them, or they love cheese, or they would kill for a camembert. And people that are a lot of people that are gluten intolerant, or a lot of people that are celiac that can't eat gluten,
They
they
just want a loaf
really,
of bread.
yeah, they really like. I just would kill for a sourdough or a donut or a pastry.
You bring up a really good point. We crave the things that are bad for us a lot of the time.
Definitely. Yeah. So there's these two things going on. So I still like after you, it's 7 a.m. here, or it's 7:30. After our podcast today, I've just started an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting really close within walking distance from home. So I'll go there. It's only an hour out of my life, you know, and I will pass on this message. And I'm not the guru there at all. I try and share it. There's 8 of us now pretty quickly that are members, and each turn one person runs the meeting. So I don't ever want to be, doesn't matter how long I'm sober. I've got to remember that I'm just the same as everybody else. And that's what I
Hmm.
try and remember.
Everything is tailored to making our lives more comfortable today, right? Whether that's social media, whether that's, you go to a store and you buy one thing and they send you, a million emails saying, buy more of this. Everything is all about, I call it the pillows of life, right? They're here to just make things more comfortable. It's not, and all those pillows don't make your life better. It doesn't make the bed better. It makes it a little softer at times, but
Mm.
eventually, you got to face up like, am I spending too much time on these things? And like you said, am I addicted to my phone? Am I addicted uh, to alcohol? Am I addicted to food? There's also many things that you could be addicted to. So if somebody's struggling with addiction, though, no matter what it is, it's not just drugs and alcohol. But what would you say? What would you say to the family members that are struggling with that, like that are feeling like there's no hope and that there's not nowhere they can turn? This person's never going to change. I'm sure that, people think that all the time. What would you tell them?
I think the family, you can see the way my energy changes. I think the family members, there's so many children out there and mums and dads and sisters and brothers and husbands and wives that they're the ones who are affected more than the person with the addiction. If we're talking back to about drug and alcohol addiction or gambling or anything like that, that burns the house, burns the relationships to the ground. There is support for you guys as well. There's things like Al-Anon, and there's support groups for people who are struggling with a loved one in addiction that isn't getting well. That and sometimes it is setting boundaries. Sometimes, they call it loving detachment in Al-Anon, where they say things like, we didn't cause it, we didn't create it, we can't cure it. These sorts of things. There's a whole 12-step movement for with the same steps that for the loved ones, because the statistics are low, guys, and this is the reality of addiction. I am the abnormal, right? I've seen. I mean, there was 4 funerals just for good friends of mine around my age last year that had long term sobriety, that picked up drinking and drugging again, and ended up dying in a pretty short period of time. That was just that was just in my and I've been to, I don't know how many funerals I would have been to at 47
I
from this.
mean,
So for the yeah,
it's a reoccurring problem. It never goes away, right? Like, I mean, if I had to honestly ask you, is it tempting to drink or anything like that? What would you say?
100%, 100%. Just because it's been in 2 weeks, I'll be all going well. I won't count my chickens before they hatch, but 25 years sober. So I'm 47 now. So I'm sober even now more than half my actual life, not half my adult life. So my drinking career was pretty short.
And people would
100%.
say, it's been 25 years. You should have no desire for that.
I'd
But it
say to
doesn't
them,
go away.
I'd say to them, come and have a look at the size of my drink bottle and my coffee cup, and like the problem isn't in the bottle. I set out. I knew I wanted to write a book. Like I know I'm jumping around here, but so the the addiction doesn't go away just because I stop drinking. The addiction manifests in other ways. So it is tempting, going back to your question. I'm so blessed that my partner, my fiance, Sophie, is in addiction recovery as well. So I almost have an accountability buddy.
A lot of people that are dealing with loved ones that have addiction problems are embarrassed. They're embarrassed to say that their life isn't under control. They're embarrassed to sit in a room for the first time with someone. And what do you think somebody like that is going to find when they take the step finally and they step in that room? Is everybody judging them? Is everybody saying, "Hey, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm so much better than you"?
Hmm. Yeah, that's what we'd like to think because that keeps us away. But it's the complete opposite. It's welcome home, and it's hearing those stories, and it's hearing the understanding of, fuck, you acted like that. Yeah, this I'm going to tell you when I did that as well. But that was 15 years ago. That was 25 years ago. That was 2 months ago. So to me, in the early days, the inspiring stories weren't the 20 years. The inspiring stories were the someone celebrating 30 days and getting a chip, getting a little coin that says they've been sober for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or 1 year was a massive one. Like when I'm just getting sober, it's fuck, this guy's just not drank and drugged for 30 days.
I think people are scared that people are going to be face to face with them when they get into these situations, and what they find is people are shoulder to shoulder with them, and they're willing to walk with them through it, and that's how we get through things is shoulder to shoulder. I say, when somebody's right next to you, heading in the same direction, not judging you, not looking down on you, but sitting right beside you. I want to switch gears a little bit because we're running low on time. Tell us about your book. And I'm going to give the spoiler alert. All right. Chad is a very, very successful psychotherapist over in Australia. and has a huge client base, and you probably get that from talking to him, hearing his wisdom. So he goes through school, does all this, and then you got to tell the story about how long it took you. You decided to write a book. How long did it take you to write a book, and give us a little insight on that.
Yeah, so this is where the alcoholism can be a superpower. Just because I got sober doesn't mean my life just fucking went like this, right? It went like this and it went down and it went up and it went down. And I knew I wanted to make this psychotherapy or therapy or working with others a career. And I did it as a volunteer for a long time, as in AA and detox and working with youth. And I knew I wanted to make it a career. And I think that was the push from the universe.
And especially when you're coming out of addiction, there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows. And those lows, when you're coming out of addiction, can feel helpless and maybe even more helpless because of the fact that you just came from a bad place and now you're thinking, "Oh God, now I'm stuck in this bad place again." But there is these ups and downs, and if you can struggle through those lows, then you can make it to the highs.
In every low we have, there's a lesson. To me, it's almost like, and I don't believe in a man on a cloud, right? But if I can pick myself up, back up, and see that maybe the universe is trying to put me somewhere else, then and use that to get to change. So for me, the goal of going from a tradesman and getting to this book, right, was really that these things happened, and it was like, fuck, this career is over. This plumbing, as much as I love the money and the hustle and the hard work and the digging trenches, and it was I love the hustle. This is done. Like this is over. And that was then when I went to started working. I kept the business going, but I stepped away from it. Right, it wasn't people facing, and then I started school and I started working. It was ironic. I had 8 guys working at like $110 an hour, and I'm going and doing sleepovers at the local youth refuge for $32 an hour, right? Taking my pillow and my sleeping bag in there, and people thought I was fucking crazy. And then that was the journey to here. But between even there and there, I had another child and I lost another relationship and I moved 2 areas because I didn't know where I needed to be and I didn't want to come back. This is where I live now, is where I grew up. I've been working with a lot of people, and this book here, guys, it's got a pretty blunt name. It was originally going to be called "I'm Fucked, You're Fucked" while being wrong is foreplay, of that ability to connect the oxytocin when we admit fault. So the book is about really that relationships are failing because we're unconscious of how unconscious we are, really. We're unconscious of, if me and you have a disagreement right now, I will be thinking in my head, Jed's 90% of the fucking problem at a minimum, if not more. And Chad, I'm only 10% of the problem. And you are thinking the exact same thing, if I'm not 100% of the problem. And then when we go away and we have an argument, we come back together and we try and heal it. I say, "Oh, look, Jed, sorry I was late this morning, but I had a really late night." And as soon as I say things like that, where I make it back about you, it changes. Where if I was to, and this is such a simple thing, I don't write many tools in my book. I talk about that we're all trying to protect ourselves, the egocentricity inside of us. Just, I'm not going to go too far into it, but quickly, when we're born, there's protective mechanisms in the body, and there's also protective mechanisms in the mind that we never talk about. So the body ones are things like when we cut our arm, the blood coagulates, we get a scab formed. Well, inside the psyche, the ego, I suppose we'd call it, a healthy sense of ego that we're born with, it has this inbuilt mechanism called the egocentricity, which it forms. And how that looks is, just quickly to get to this point, little Jed draws a picture for his dad. He's 4 years old and his dad's busy working because he's trying to make ends meet. He's trying to look after the family. And he comes home from work and he's exhausted. And Jed there hands him the picture and he's really proud of what he's done. And his dad doesn't really have time to give him any recognition for the picture. Well, there's a rejection there, right? This little kid has been rejected, but we're too little to know. So the ego actually puts up what they call an egocentricity. So it puts a little barrier up so we don't feel rejected in that moment. That's what happens. And it happens at school. When we start to like a girl, she doesn't like us. We get picked last for the sporting team. I won't go too far into it. So by the time we're in early teens, we are pretty much just, the ego's inside of there. That healthy, loving part of us is inside. And the egocentricity is trapping, almost in a
Just protecting
domestic.
us
Yeah,
from
we're in a
what we
prison, and
what from our experience.
yep, and the Buddha talk. The story of the Buddha is this, and Christianity's got its own version. This parable, the black wolf and the white wolf. The American Indians talk about the black wolf and the
Yeah.
white wolf. Being inside of us and being in a fight to the death. Well, most of us are mostly black wolf, and there's a little bit of white wolf, right?
So you got the idea for this book on what day?
So I knew I wanted to write a book, and I went on a holiday last year to Bali. Bali's like my second home, Indonesia. And on the plane there, I was on the 18th of December. I started making a few notes, and
So
then
on
I
the
got back
18th
on
of December, you get on a plane, you start making
yeah,
some notes,
and
and
then on the 8th of January, I got back on the plane to come home, and the book was ready for publish. It was
so
just
December
finalizing the
18th to
cover.
January 8th, and then you published it this year. Now,
Yeah, it was
I'm
on Amazon. It was on Kindle by the 16th of January, and then I had 2,000 books, just 2,046 to be in fact. Books just turned up. You can see a lot of them in the background there. At my house about 2 weeks ago that I had organized and printed and shipped from the other side of the world. So, what I want to say quickly there is being an alcoholic and an addict can be a superpower because we get shit done. Like that energy can transform into something good.
Yeah, you can take that focus and that dedication, that addiction, and put it into something good and make things happen that other people couldn't make happen. I'm willing to bet that you are the number one author in your specific part of Australia, your little town.
Oh, definitely. I'm the number one author in the world. No, I haven't just been found yet.
Well, you've been found here. Okay. So if people wanted to buy the book, if they wanted to find you, like what would be the place that they would find you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok at chadtaylor.itsyou. My website's chadtaylorpsychotherapy.com.au. If you typed in Chad Taylor Psychotherapy, I'm sure you'd probably find me. And the book's on Amazon or Shopify of this name. So I can't advertise it. So this is the thing too. I've made it hard for myself. And this is again, believe in yourself. I know the book will find who it's meant to find. People are saying, "Why are you giving out so many books? Why are you like you?" And I'm like, I didn't really write it to make money. I'm doing okay. I'm not a billionaire or a multimillionaire. But I'm doing okay in life. And the book, because it came to me so easy, the book's goal isn't to make me rich or famous. My whole goal is if we can get this into rehabs and if we can get this into jails and places like that where the message is really needed, that's the goal of the book. I don't really want to make any profit off it. So it's not really about making money, this movement for me. It's more about how can I give to the world. So I'd love to read, it's about 3 sentences. I'd love to read the back for anyone out there. This book isn't here to make you feel good. It's about realizing it's not your partner, your past, or the world. It's you. If you're done blaming, bullshitting, and you're ready to take responsibility, read it. If not, don't. So that's virtually the level of the writing in it. It's pretty direct and it's pretty blunt, but I also think there's a lot of wisdom in there. A lot of people a lot smarter than me have sort of contacted me and said, "Wow, I can't believe you've condensed so much into 136 pages."
Look, I think if you're struggling with some of the things that we've talked about today, I think it's a great book for that, and it comes from the heart. You can tell Chad, uh, he definitely has demonstrated that. And I'd say the next book after that you need to read is Shut Up and Win because
Exactly.
because then you
Well,
need some
first
strategies.
you got to learn how to not burn your life to the ground, and then the next thing is the next stage of Jed's book, learning how to win.
Are you or do you feel successful?
100%. And
And tell
I
us
don't.
why.
There's not one part of me. There's not one part of me in that thinks I'm not. And I'm sure everybody goes into a spiel, but success for me isn't just what my bank balance looks like. Success for me is I know my kids love me. My daughter just put some of my merch on yesterday, my hat and my shirt, my little 8 year old, and started doing all these TikTok dances. So I've put that up today. And anyway, she's asked me last night if we can write a book, a kids version about bullying and what it's like when your friends don't play with you. And she's short and how it is when you've been, that it's you, oh no, it's me, that people don't
Is it
realize how mean they're being.
maybe you call it, oh damn girl, why you gotta be mean?
There you go. So yeah, successful to me looks like a lot of things, but I believe I'm financially successful, I'm physically successful, I'm emotionally, spiritually. Like I have an amazing partner, I have amazing kids, like amazing kids. If we don't actually take stock of what we've got and always want to see what's going to make us successful or what we think success is, we're never contented in our lives. And
Well,
I truly every day.
you bring up a really good point. And here's the thing, it's not putting anybody down to say this is the best place for me in the world, and I've got the best partner for me in the world. That's not putting anybody else down. That's just acknowledging what you have. And so, and I love that you're a true family man. You truly care about people, and I think that comes through with everything you do. Okay, very last thing, and then we got to wrap this up. Um, Biggest nugget piece of wisdom that's either been given to you or that you've learned in your entire life? Go.
Next time you're pointing the finger at someone, and whether it's in the car or wherever it is, just remember there's three pointing back at you. That it generally, the reaction you're having is happening inside of you. They're just the catalyst to make you feel a certain way, and then you blame them for your feelings.
I love it. I like there's one pointing at them and three pointing back at you. I love that. That's so good. Chad, this has truly been a great conversation. I want to just thank you for taking the time, getting up super early over there in Australia. And listen, if you want to get in touch with Chad, definitely reach out to him on Instagram and check out his website. I definitely check out his book. And just thank you for all of the time that you've given us this morning, Chad.
Thanks, Jed. And if anyone listening really can't afford it, just send me an email. I'll get you a digital copy for free. I mean that. Like if you, but don't go and buy $15 coffee and then ring me up, message me for a free book. If you really can't afford the money and you need it, message me and I'll get it to you. I'll get you a digital copy for free because it's not about, and I do mean that.
That's awesome, Chad. Thank you so much, man. We will catch you guys next time on Winning with Jed, the next episode.